Hello, Gary Stearman. Time for an update from Prophecy in the News, Friday, December 14th. And at this time, there's a horrible news story coming across the wires from Newtown, Connecticut, which is a small community about 30 miles to the west of Hartford, Connecticut. And I'm reading from the Hartford Courant, and I quote, 27 people, including 18 children, have been killed in a shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School. According to the Associated Press, the report cites an official with knowledge of the situation. This is a very early report, by the way. Sources told the Courant that there are at least 20 shooting victims. Many of the shootings took place in a kindergarten classroom. And when you read this and you go on down through the story, you are struck once again, as in cases like this. We remember the Aurora, Colorado Joker shooting, in which a man dressed up as the Joker from Batman walked into a movie theater and began to shoot up the theater with automatic weapons. And he obviously had done it with malice aforethought. He had planned the whole thing. But why in the world are these things happening? Some people are trying to blame guns. Some people are trying to blame political philosophies. But believe me, the Bible has the answer for why these things are happening, and none of it has to do directly with guns, directly with the presence of guns. The Second Amendment doesn't have anything to do with politics. It has everything to do with spirituality. And I'm reading a prophecy from Paul written to Timothy, 2 Timothy 3:1. This know also that in the last days perilous times shall come. Many of us believe we're living in those last days. Whether you call them the latter days or the last days, the Bible is very clear that a perilous period would emerge in the days just before the rapture of the church and the judgment of this earth by the Lord during the day of the Lord, the Great Tribulation. Let me read this again. 2 Timothy 3:1, this know also that in the last days perilous times shall come, for men shall be lovers of their own selves, coveters, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affection, trucebreakers, false accusers, incontinent, that is, unable to control themselves in any way, fierce, despisers of those that are good, traitors, heady, highminded, lovers of pleasures more than lovers of God, having a form of godliness but denying the power thereof. From such turn away. And Paul identifies the problem of the latter days or of the last days as being a spiritual problem, a form of godliness, an instability. For example here, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, the old family rock solid character building familial traits all breaking down, without natural affection, that is, without the natural love that human beings have for each other. And all of this is referred to under the heading perilous times. This know also that in the last days perilous times shall come. And a long time ago I discovered the meaning of the word perilous. In the Bible, if you look up in the Greek New Testament, you will discover that the word perilous there is a translation of a Greek word, chalepos, which would be spelled in English lettering, C-H-A-L-E-P-O-S, chalepos. And chalepos in the Greek, it refers to a kind of raging, out of control insanity, which Paul said would characterize the last days. That word, chalepos, and I've written about this many times, so forgive me if you've heard this before. That word chalepos, or exceedingly fierce or perilous, is found only 2 times in the entire New Testament. And the other time, you find it in Matthew chapter 8, where Jesus, after preaching, enters into a boat. A ship is called in the King James Bible, and he sails across to the eastern side of the Sea of Galilee. And I'll read this starting in Matthew 8:23. And when he was entered into a ship, his disciples followed him, and behold, there arose a great tempest in the sea, insomuch that the ship was covered with waves, but he was asleep. And by the way, it's very characteristic of the Sea of Galilee, lying as it does to the east of a kind of a natural channel called the Horns of Hattin, where the wind blows in from the Mediterranean Sea, blows from west to east, and occasionally in the afternoon, the wind can go from 0 to 40 knots in about 10 seconds. They have these sudden great gusts of wind that blow across the Sea of Galilee, and such winds and waves could swamp a small boat, such as the one in which Jesus was sailing. And so his disciples came to him, Matthew 8:25, woke him and saying, Lord, save us, we perish. And he said unto them, why are you fearful, O ye of little faith? And then he arose, rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm. But the men marveled, saying, what manner of man is this, that even the winds and the sea obey him? Now, this anecdote, this incident is mentioned in the Bible just prior to another famous incident. The Lord has control of natural law, but he has control of something else too. Starting in verse 28, and when he was come to the other side of the country of the Gergesenes, there met him two possessed with devils coming out of the tombs, exceedingly fierce, so that no man might pass that way. And behold, they cried out, saying, what have we to do with thee, Jesus, thou Son of God? Art thou come hither to torment us before the time? And now, the men in question here were insane. They were outside the bounds of society, uncontrollable. They lived in the rocks and the cliffs there on the east side of the Sea of Galilee. And when Jesus and the disciples disembarked, they were greeted by a couple of insane men, or rather, shall we say, demon-possessed men, because that's what they were. And the demons within the man recognized Jesus for who he was and said, are you come here to torment us before the time? Well, the next verse says, and there was a good way off from them a herd of many swine feeding. So the devils besought him, saying, if thou cast us out, suffer us to go away into that herd of swine. And of course, the rest of the story is Jesus did allow the demons to go into the herd of swine. The swine ran down into the sea and killed themselves. And this incident uses that word that Paul used when he said, this know also that in the last days perilous times shall come, halapos. And we have that right here. And let me read Matthew 8:28 again. And when he was come to the other side of the country of the Gergesenes, there met him two possessed with devils, coming out of the tombs, exceeding fierce. That two-word term is a translation, the Greek word halapos, the only other time in the New Testament that word is used. And so it came to me that what Paul was really saying when he wrote to Timothy was, this know also that in the last days insane or ragingly insane times shall come. In other words, men are going to be driven by the demons that are inside of them. And that brings me back to the school shooting that we talked about a moment ago. Because there in Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut, little kindergarten kids were shot by some ragingly insane human being who then shot himself, just as Paul described it. And that is just another sign to me that we are in the closing days of this dispensation. Be in prayer and keep looking up, everybody.